In a gold-plated office in one of Manhattan's glittering skyscrapers, a real estate billionaire, stepping out of an elevator on that hot June day in 2015, was about to lay the foundation for one of the most contentious relationships in world political history. When Donald Trump stepped out of that famous gold-plated elevator, he wasn't just entering the presidential race. He was launching the most destructive, provocative, and perhaps the most strategic war history has ever seen with the media. But the real story went back much further. Trump's way of dancing with the media, waging war against it, and his ability to weaponize it was the product of years of learning. His youth spent working for New York's tabloid newspapers, his experience on television programs, even his days grappling with bankruptcy news, all prepared him for this moment. As a young businessman in the 1970s, Trump discovered the power of the media very early on. While trying to make a name for himself in Manhattan's real estate world, he constantly provided journalists with stories. Sometimes exaggerated, sometimes entirely fictional, these stories graced the front pages of the New York Post and the Daily News. While other real estate developers quietly conducted their business, every project of Trump's became a media event. The Grand Hyatt Hotel, Trump Tower, Trump Plaza, each was not just a building but a story, a show, a media bombardment. By the 1980s, Trump had a perfect understanding of how the media machine worked. But there was an interesting paradox here. The media could create him, but it could also destroy him. And indeed it did. In the early 1990s, Trump's bankruptcies, marriage scandals, and business failures filled the media's headlines. Time magazine's cover headline read, "Trump Falling." New York newspapers ran headlines like, "The End of Trump." The media had brought him down. But Trump had learned one thing: attracting media attention was more important than controlling the media. Even bad news was good news, because at least people were hearing his name. This philosophy would become his most important weapon, setting him apart from his rivals years later when he entered politics. When the television program The Apprentice began in 2004, Trump's relationship with the media entered a new phase. He was no longer just part of the news industry, but also the entertainment industry. The phrase, "You're fired," became part of everyday American speech. Every week, millions of Americans watched Trump on television, seeing him as a successful, wealthy, and charismatic leader. NBC paid him millions annually, and the program aired for 14 seasons. During this period, Trump had internalized the television format, the editing, and the storytelling. He had learned how to create drama in an episode, how to escalate tension, and how to keep people glued to the screen. The truth was, Trump's presidential campaign was nothing more than the 15th season of The Apprentice. Only this time the production team included CNN, FOX News, and MSNBC. When he stepped out of that golden elevator in June 2015, the media was ready. The cameras were already in place. When Trump approached the microphone, what he said would create waves. "When they send people from Mexico, they're not sending the best." Before he could finish the sentence, the channels had gone live. Trump knew, say something shocking, and the media will broadcast it. If they broadcast it, you win. In the first few weeks, the media didn't take him seriously. The Huffington Post published news about Trump in its entertainment section instead of its politics section. Columnists mocked him, and political analysts said his campaign would be over in a few weeks. But they were overlooking something. Every outburst, every controversial statement Trump made was analyzed for hours on television. And during this analysis, Trump's name and face were constantly on screen. In August 2015, the first Republican primary debate, hosted by FOX News, was the first major test of Trump's media strategy. When moderator Megyn Kelly asked about Trump's past comments regarding women, the politicians and political analysts in the room thought that question would end Trump. In traditional politics, such a question could end a campaign. But Trump was not traditional. "I only said that to Rosie O'Donnell," he said. The room was stunned, but Twitter exploded. The next day, all the newspapers and television stations were talking about the moment. Trump had won. Because he had set the media agenda, he had steered the debate in the direction he wanted. In the days following Megyn Kelly, Trump attacked her, targeted her. Media experts said this was a mistake. But Trump knew the longer the fight went on, the longer it stayed in the media. And it did. By October 2015, media research revealed a surprising fact. Trump generated far more news value than his rivals. CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, even local channels, all were broadcasting live every rally, every tweet, every statement Trump made. While rivals like Jeb Bush, Marco Rubio, and Ted Cruz were spending millions of dollars on advertising, Trump was getting millions of dollars worth of free airtime. According to a report by Harvard's Media Research Center, by the end of 2015, Trump had received approximately $2 billion in free media value. In other words, the media was constantly advertising for him, but Trump wasn't paying a single penny. How did he do it? It was simple. Every day he created a new scandal, a new outburst, a new fight. The media couldn't resist this drama. When Trump called for a complete halt to Muslim entry into America in December 2015, the media went wild. CNN, MSNBC, ABC, CBS, every channel, along with its experts, spent hours criticizing Trump. But there was a paradox. While criticizing him, they constantly mentioned his name, showed his face, and repeated his words. Trump's rivals had become invisible. There was only Trump, everywhere, all the time, on every screen. In January 2016, as the Iowa caucuses approached, Trump announced he would not participate in a debate organized by FOX News. The reason? Megyn Kelly was moderating. Political commentators said this was tantamount to suicide. How could a presidential candidate skip an important debate? But Trump didn't skip it. He organized an alternative event, and the media focused on him again. Even those who watched the debate wondered what Trump was doing, because all the channels were talking about it. As the primaries accelerated in February and March, Trump's media tactics became clear. Tweet early in the morning, and the channels would be talking about it by noon. Go to a rally in the afternoon, and the evening news would broadcast it. Tweet again late at night, and the next morning's programs would open with it. He controlled the 24-hour news cycle. While his rivals scrambled to be in the news, Trump was already at the center of every news story. In mid-March, an incident demonstrated just how distorted the media's relationship with Trump was. At a rally, Trump defended his supporters who attacked protesters in the crowd. The media wrote that he was inciting violence. Commentators condemned Trump. But that same evening, CNN broadcast live for 20 minutes of Trump's empty podium. Hillary Clinton was giving a speech at the time, but CNN didn't show her. They showed an empty podium because Trump was going to speak from it. Les Moonves, the CEO of CBS, made a complete admission at an investor meeting in February 2016. Trump may not be good for America, but he's very good for CBS. Media companies were making money from Trump. Ratings were breaking records. Advertising revenue was increasing. Even if Trump was a disaster scenario, it was a profitable one. When Trump became the Republican Party's definitive nominee in May 2016, the media began to question itself. The question, "Did we create Trump?" was raised in opinion columns and TV panels. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, all underwent a process of self-criticism. But it was too late. Trump was no longer just a candidate, he was a phenomenon, and the media couldn't survive without him. During the general election campaign, Trump's war with the media took on a new dimension. He wasn't just seeking attention anymore, he was declaring the media his enemy. Enemy of the people was the mildest term he used to describe the media at his rallies. Fake media, fake news, biased press. Every rally began with attacks on journalists, and the crowd cheered. A critical transformation was taking place here. By waging war against the media, Trump was actually creating his own media. His supporters no longer trusted the mainstream media. They saw CNN, the New York Times, and the Washington Post as enemies. Trump's words, tweets, and rallies were the only real news source for them. The more the media criticized Trump, the more loyal his supporters became. The release of the Access Hollywood tape in October 2016 was the biggest test of Trump's media strategy. The tape contained extremely demeaning remarks by Trump about women. The media saw this as the end of Trump's campaign. When the Washington Post published the tape, all channels featured it on their front pages. Many Republicans withdrew their support from Trump. Political analysts declared the race over. But Trump changed the game again. He brought together the women accused of sexual harassment by Bill Clinton and held a press conference with them. He dropped this bombshell just before the debate. The media was stunned. The Access Hollywood tape was still in the news, but now the Clinton family was also in the spotlight. Trump had stolen the media's attention, overshadowing his own scandal with Clinton's. As election night approached, the media was certain that Trump would lose. Polls, experts, models, they all said Clinton would win. The New York Times gave Clinton an 85% chance of winning. The Huffington Post said 98%. The media was mentally prepared for Clinton's victory speech. On the night of November 8, 2016, reality hit the media in the face. The shock, which began with Florida going to Trump, continued with Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Panelists on CNN were stunned. Commentators on MSNBC were frozen. Even FOX News was surprised. The media couldn't accept the fact that Trump would be president because all their analyses, all their models, all their predictions had been thrown in the trash. The next morning, the media found itself in a precarious situation. Every comment, every article, every analysis that criticized, mocked, and didn't take Trump seriously was now in the archives. And Trump was president. The media hadn't just misanalyzed him, they had been completely wrong. A credibility crisis had begun. The first days of Trump's presidency were the most intense period of his battle with the media. The debate over the size of the crowd at the inauguration ceremony set the tone for the conflict between the media and the White House in the first weeks. In his first statement as press spokesperson, Sean Spicer accused the media of downplaying the crowd. "This is the largest inauguration ceremony in history," he said. Photographs showed the opposite. When the concept of alternative facts was introduced by Trump advisor Kellyanne Conway, the media ridiculed it. But in reality, this concept described the essence of the Trump era. There was no longer a single truth. Each side had its own truth. The media's truth and Trump's truth. In February 2017, Trump described the media as the enemy of the people in a tweet. This statement was reminiscent of the darkest periods in history. Stalin, Hitler, Mao, they all described the press as the enemy of the people. For the first time in American history, a president targeted the free press in this way. Media organizations, former presidents, politicians, everyone condemned this statement. But Trump did not back down. Press briefings at the White House had turned into a circus. Sean Spicer, then Sarah Huckabee Sanders, every press spokesperson was at war with journalists. The questions were aggressive, the answers defiant. CNN reporter Jim Acosta became one of Trump's biggest targets. Their arguments at every press conference were broadcast on television. In July 2017, Trump shared an altered video on Twitter. In the video, Trump was seen taking down someone with a CNN logo on their head in a scene from a WWE wrestling match. The media saw this as incitement to violence, while Trump's supporters defended it as humor. But the message was clear. Trump was engaged in a symbolic, not metaphorical, war with the media. The term fake news had become a weapon in Trump's rhetoric. Every news item, every analysis, Every criticism he disliked was fake news. CNN, fake news. New York Times, fake news. Washington Post, fake news. Over time, this term became a tool used by autocratic leaders worldwide to attack democracy. From the Philippines to Turkey, from Hungary to Brazil, everywhere, leaders, inspired by Trump, were calling the media fake news. In August 2018, newspaper editors launched a coordinated campaign against Trump's attacks on the media. More than 300 newspapers defended press freedom in their editorials that same day. The Boston Globe's headline was clear: "Journalists are not the enemy." But Trump was unaffected. He tweeted, "The real fake news media is the great enemy of the people." In 2019, when Sarah Sanders stepped down as White House press secretary, she hadn't even held regular press briefings in the final months. Trump communicated directly via Twitter or FOX news interviews. Traditional media relations had completely collapsed. In their place, Trump's own reality tunnel had formed. That same year, Trump made perhaps his most radical move considering his entire media history. He hung a fake Time magazine cover in the Oval Office. The cover showed him shining, telling success stories. But the cover was fake. Time had never made such a cover. When the media exposed this, Trump's media relationship based on lies was symbolically crystallized there. As 2020 began, the COVID-19 pandemic added a new dimension to Trump's relationship with the media. Daily press briefings became Trump's show. These hours-long meetings were vivid examples of Trump dancing with the media, clashing with it, and manipulating it. Scientists presented data, Trump suggested remedies. Journalists asked questions, Trump berated them. In April 2020, when Trump questioned at a press conference whether injecting disinfectant could cure COVID-19, the media went wild. Public health experts raised the alarm, but Trump was still the topic of conversation. Every channel was talking about it, every newspaper was writing about it, even bad news was news. As the November 2020 elections approached, Trump developed a new strategy against the media: to undermine confidence in the election results beforehand. "Mail-in votes will be rigged," he said for months. The media denied and rejected this, but Trump had sown the seeds. When election night arrived, his supporters already distrusted the media. On election night and afterwards, Trump's media war reached its peak. He claimed victory, the media denied it. He said the election was stolen, the media demanded proof. He went to court, he lost. But for his own supporters, reality was not the media's reality. Even when Fox News gave Arizona to Biden, Trump supporters boycotted Fox and turned to more radical channels like Newsmax and OAN. The Capitol storming on January 6, 2021, was the darkest outcome of Trump's media war. Thousands of his supporters stormed the Capitol building believing the election was stolen. Why did they believe it? Because Trump had said so. The media denied it, but they didn't trust the media. Trump had portrayed the media as his enemy for 4 years, and now his supporters only believed him. The live broadcasts during the raid were like a summary of Trump's media legacy. On one hand, mainstream channels described it as an uprising, while on the other, some channels portrayed it as a popular uprising. The same event, two completely different realities. Trump had achieved this. He had polarized the media to such an extent that there was no longer a shared reality. When Twitter permanently closed Trump's account, an ironic moment occurred. Trump had built his media career on Twitter. Twitter had made Trump who he was. Now Twitter was silencing Trump. But had it really silenced him? Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they all banned Trump, but Trump's influence hadn't ended. Throughout 2021 and 2022, Trump made announcements from his Mar-a-Lago estate. He founded his own platform, Truth Social. His press appearances were limited, but everyone was still news. The media couldn't learn to live without him. Every Trump tweet, or rather, every truth, was still making headlines. In 2023, Trump's trial in 4 separate courts added a new dimension to his relationship with the media. Forgery in Manhattan, election interference in Georgia, federal document theft, and election interference. Each trial was a media storm. But Trump had discovered something. The courts were also a stage, and the trials were a media show. He held press conferences at every court appearance and gave statements to the media after every hearing. While the courts tried to silence him, Trump turned the court buildings into his own platform. The cameras were always there, and Trump knew exactly where the cameras were.